Fabulous, fabulous. Well, welcome everyone. I'm going to give Kath a second to get the slides up and rolling. There we go.
You got it?
I got it. It looks good.
Okay, perfect.
It is Tuesday, September 22nd, and we are so excited to have you here. We have an action-packed, totally jam-packed call today with an amazing speaker who we've already been chatting with. Steve Drapolsky, National Executive Director, is here to share some just incredible wisdom with you. So let's continue to dive right in. I want to start our time today just reviewing with you our leadership principles. We introduced these 6 leadership principles where you are all in attendance at Empower. So high level overview of all of these. Principle number 1 is take action today, developing a clear vision, setting measurable goals, and taking action now, remembering that your dreams are achieved one day at a time. Principle 2 is lead by example, and this one might be one of my personal favorites, remembering that you set the pace for your team and they are watching you, your actions, and your attitude in every single area of your business and in your personal life as well, as far as you allow them to see into it. Principle 3 is to own your story. Take ownership of the outcome of your success story. You own your outcome and the results that you have. Principle 4 is grow and learn. We are always the student and always a student of our business and continuing to push ourselves to grow and learn more every single day. That's a mark of a really great leader. Principle 5 is to embrace the potential, becoming a servant leader by helping others to reach their potential. The more we help others reach their potential, the more success we are going to have as a leader. And last but not least is principle 6, to live with purpose. Live with a purpose and a passion that will help to enrich the lives of others, not just your team members, but anyone else that you come in contact with in your business. So today we really want to take a moment. We focused on leadership principles 1 and 2 previously. Today we're going to dive into principle 3 a little deeper. And in your business and in our personal lives, remember, we are the authors of our story. Think of the biggest responsibilities you have in life: your family, your personal health, finances, your education, business. Your action or inaction in any of these areas can radically impact your life. The effort you put into your business is often exactly what you can expect to get out of it. So as a leader, remember, you're responsible for your success. When you take full ownership of your outcomes, you'll inspire those around you to do the same. And guys, this is so important right now. We know we've been facing challenges. Life certainly has not been easy as a pampered chef leader or consultant, and many of your team members are expressing this to you, their frustrations. But remember, as a leader, owning your story means that you own the outcome. Owning your actions today. How are you handling the challenges? What is the attitude that you're taking? That determines the outcome. Part of accepting total responsibility for your story and ultimately your success in all areas of life is choosing to live above the line. When we live above the line, we are truly writing that story too. When we're above the line, we find solutions, we embrace accountability, and accept reality. When a person lives below the line, they are a victim of their circumstances and they deal in excuses, blame, and denial. And I really want to challenge all of you right now. Does it stink sometimes? Sure. Are things a lot more challenging than we would want them to be in this time of growth? Absolutely. We don't want to deal with stop sells or shipping issues, but the fact is, we've been handed those right now. So we have a choice to own our story today and decide how we want to live through that and the example that we want to set for our team. And I think as we talk about that leadership principle, you can think about, how am I doing in this area? And I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and write down, how are you doing? How are you doing with owning your story? Okay, I think that's a really great introduction to our recap on culture. And before we really dive into what Steve has to share with us today, let's review a little bit about culture and how it's defined, because that's what we're here for. Because we know we can own our story, and that also means we own the culture that we are seeking to develop and drive and cultivate within our organization. So, of course, we know culture is a set of shared values, goals, and practices that characterize a group, a team, or an organization. We know there are two ways that culture will come together, either by chance, you just let it roll and see what happens, where generally the loudest voice wins, or you can intentionally allow your culture to come together by deciding on the culture that you want and working intentionally to create and to drive that culture. So that's really what we're here for today. And we're going to talk specifically about the culture of teamwork and monthly activity. Kathy and I reviewed with you in depth a lot about how to create the culture of teamwork and monthly activity, along with fast-paced recruiting growth and career plan advancement. So Kath, why don't you go ahead and just give a review of teamwork and monthly activity before we kick it over to Steve?
Okay, perfect. So just to remind you guys, oops, sorry, my dog's barking we have lots of people on our roof right now. They are working on the house and we're going to be painting. So he's having a heart attack. So I apologize. But anyway, so one of the things we talk about with these cultures, you guys, is you've heard the three cultures, you probably have the three memorized, but do you know what is contained within each culture? And so that's why we review this. They say that, if you're like at a 1-hour seminar, you typically only retain 17% of what you've heard. So this is why we repeat things quite a bit. So, of course, influencing this culture of teamwork and monthly activity, the first thing is everybody working together towards common goals, which means they have to know the goals. And I know we talked last time about how some people struggle with sharing those goals, right? And not making it about you. And we talked about the right way to do that. Also, the second part of this is consultants being paid at their level every month, not only expecting 100% activity, but also encouraging them to be paid in both pay periods. And how does expecting 100% activity work versus what the reality is? We don't always get it, but how you can't just ask for 50% because then they're going to say, well, I'll let that have to it, right? The third piece is expecting and encouraging all directors to be paid at their level every month. And I know Steve is a pro on this and is going to give us some good tips here. And then the last part of this is really thinking about using we language. Your words are so powerful. So really removing I from your conversations when you're talking about your team and what you guys are doing together as an organization. And then being sure to really recognize team success. And what we mean by that is not just like Steve's the top seller and then Jean and then Cora, but it's about as a team, what did we do together for sales? What did we do together for recruiting? How, all the people that are active. So those are the main points if you're really living out teamwork and monthly activity that you definitely want to be engaged in. So now I'm going to turn it back to Stace to introduce Steve, and we'll get to hear his tips. So get your iPads, your iPhones, your Evernote, your pen, your paper, whatever it is, because you are going to be writing fast and furious.
And don't forget, you're going to get the replay. So you certainly are going to have time to be able to go back and to re-listen as well, because Steve does have some great wisdom to share with you on how he has made some shifts and really works hard to influence his organization. But before we turn it over, give me a moment just to share with you a little bit about how special this amazing man is. He started with Pampered Chef just 4 years ago, and to date has 119 qualified recruits, $911,000 in personal sales in just 4 years' time. A virtual show average of $900. He is our only male to achieve national executive director in company history. Running a 100% virtual business from day one, he has earned level 2 elite to Bahamas, actually earned that in April of this year so quickly, earned the executive trip to Prague, which is so exciting. And his organization has sold $10.1 million this year and recruited hold on to your seats. 1,160 people in 2020. All of last year, they sold 5.1 million and recruited 875 people. He has 91 directors in his first through third generations and was recognized as the number 3 in our entire company in sales at National Conference 2020. Without further ado, Steve, thank you so much for being here. We cannot wait to hear what you have to share with us.
Sure. Hi guys. So I'm so excited to be here. This is like my favorite part of this business is sharing with everybody. It's been my MO from day one. So I'm super pumped whenever I get asked to do these kind of things. So in terms of teamwork and monthly activity, the key really in moving the needle on that is influence, right? And I know you heard about that. A large part of this program and what you guys are learning really is rooted in this idea, but it really took us from where we were with one director in 2000 and all the years blur together, but it was just a few years ago, but it took us from where we were to where I really wanted us to be, right? Again, that idea of we, right? Not me, but we. And so influence is power, right? No matter what your title is now or what your goals are for your business, right? Hashtag executive for many of you, and some of you I know are just new executives, right? And then you're kind of shadowing this. Possessing the ability to influence is critical for success. Gaining influence within your team can help you work together more effectively, right? Gain more respect and earn greater appreciation, all while making your voice more likely to be heard and most importantly, acknowledged. Influence has countless advantages, but gaining that influence, just like learning a skill, it takes time and effort, right? And so I want to share with you some important things to consider while working to cultivate this characteristic, right? Because your ability to achieve influence will literally move the needle and create all the things, all the cultures, right, that I know so many of you are working towards or working to improve, right? And then I'll share a few tips as to how I actively work with my organization to influence teamwork and monthly activity, in terms of my personal team, but also directors and, organization-wide. An article I recently read online really spoke to this topic of influence and the positive impact it can have. So these are the building blocks of influence, in my opinion, okay? So this will really help you to create it and then be able to use it as a means of getting all the things that you want, right? For you, but also for your organization. So number one, build trust with your team. Guys, trust, think about it, any relationship, your spouse, your best friend, your partner, it literally is the glue, right? Your team needs to trust you to be open to your influence. So let's talk a few ways to establish trust. Be transparent with your team goals, right? I saw someone in the chat earlier with their story talking about owning their goals, right? These should be set annually at a minimum, right? Like our goal for the year is $15 million in sales and 1,500 recruits for the organization for the year, and everybody knows it, right? It's on every call. I always stress it and say, this is what we're going for. This is where we are. This percentage to this. Are you down to be a part of this? Can we partner together, right, to make this happen? But a best practice would be quarterly and monthly as well, right? And be okay sharing when and if you don't meet those goals, right? Because what does that do? That humanizes you, right? You're not all of a sudden this advanced director, senior director, just like them, right? You're not putting yourself in a different place. You're saying, this is what I was going for. We fell short. It's a combination of me, definitely, but it's also all of us. So what can we do to improve this, right? How can we work together and partner, okay? And this could be related to your personal business, right? As we all know, personal business first, front and center, always 100%, right? For the longest time, my team thought I never had a bad party. I was the $1,000 party king, right? Wrong, okay? So I would sometimes share a screenshot of my parties for the week and some would be great and a few would clearly be poor. They would just qualify. This helped them see that I am doing all the things that I teach them to do and I'm having the same struggles at times and successes that they are having, okay? And all of the systems we have in place, right? I've taught to them, it doesn't always lead to a $1,000 show, but oftentimes it does. So trust the systems and stay the course, right? It's the same thing with recruiting. People thought I was like a magical unicorn. Every person I breathed on, I recruited. Not true. I'm in the trenches having the same conversations, the same back and forth, the same dance that every single one of you, every single consultant on my team is having, right? Right, so they trust what I teach them because I'm living it, right? Next, value your team members as people more than you value them as producers and sellers. One of the greatest joys, and I get kind of like emotional, one of the greatest joys of getting to the pinnacle with Pampered Chef is that it becomes about the people along that journey. It's not about the money anymore. It's not even about the trips. It's not about any of that, right? It's about the people and the relationship you build. As a leader, you have the opportunity to show how much you value your teams every day in a myriad of ways through incentives, happy mail, recognition. People will do more for praises than raises. A post on their personal wall that they were in the top 10 in sales. That goes a long way, far greater than a $5 Amazon gift card. Okay? Be authentically you with your teams. You can see right here in this meeting, this is the Steve you always get whenever you hear from Steve. It's never going to be a show because I'm on a home office call. I'm always going to be authentically me. And you have to show up authentically for your teams. And it's just like with guests or hosting parties. When your team can relate to you and feel on some level equal to you, they're more likely to trust you. You know, as I said, like I'm always going to be 100% Steve, right? I'm rough around the edges, but that's why people respect me. Okay? And lastly, ask them what they would like to have training on or how they need to be supported. This isn't about you. Right? Don't assume that you know because you could be training or supporting them in the wrong way. I think about the beginning of this pandemic. I thought to myself, well, everybody's probably freaking out right now about everything that's happening and worrying about our business being successful and how can we run parties and no one will want to do shows. So guess what I did? I did an organization-wide survey and said, what are you struggling with or worried about right now? And then I created a series of trainings that I work with my leaders to deploy to address their challenges and their fears and whatever they were nervous about. I wasn't imposing upon them what I thought they needed to hear. I listened and then I created and then I offered to help, you know, meet them where they were. Okay, 2, cultivate reliability through consistency. Inconsistency is the fastest way to ruin your reputation. And by the way, guys, all of these things I'm saying to you, me, hashtag work in progress. I'm not firing off on all cylinders on every single one of these things. So I never want to like give a training and say like, I'm doing everything perfectly. I'm doing everything right. Not true. I am learning to get better at all these things just like you guys are. And guess what? It doesn't change when you get to be a national executive director. You're still growing. You still are learning and absorbing and figuring out what can I do better. Okay. Consistency, on the other hand, is slow but sure. If you execute your tasks effectively and on time, day after day, eventually people will come to rely on you. The same is true when you execute a consistent style of leadership, setting consistent expectations with your teams and giving consistent rewards for good work. People will come to rely on your behavior and will see it more attainable to have what you have, to be more, do more, have more, to step up, to see a vision greater than they ever thought possible. And that consistency is vital for building influence. Otherwise, you will have an air of unpredictability about you, and ultimately, it will be more difficult for your team to buy in to the vision you set. I know many of you have these vision boards with houses, and everybody can get a house and all these things, right? So 3, be assertive, not aggressive. This was a dance for me because as you can tell, I'm a get to business kind of person. But that can be off-putting if it's too far in the one direction. Being assertive is the only way to get buy-in for your ideas, systems, methods, whatever. However, there's a difference between being assertive and being aggressive. You'll need to present your thoughts and ideas with a high degree of confidence, indicating your convictions, but too much confidence could be mistaken for arrogance, which will leave your team members questioning your real motives. This rings true when I heard Kathy mention, this is what I see for us. Right? It's not, hey, I want to go for this. Are you going to be paid at your title every month so we can make this happen? Right? It's a inclusion, right, of that whole idea. This assertiveness should be present in all of your interactions, regardless of the format. Being assertive, so long as you truly believe in what you're saying, is a way to cultivate a reputation of authority and earn the ability to influence your team members. Fast-paced recruiting growth, teamwork monthly activity, career plan advancement. Okay? 4, be flexible. Flexibility is super important, right? While this may seem like it conflicts with the need to be assertive, after all, it's difficult to fully assert yourself if you're open to changing your opinion, right? Being too adamant in your beliefs will work against you. In this case, people will come to see you as stubborn and incapable of believing in anyone other than yourself. okay? This can decrease the respect people have for you and compromise your overall influence. Think about how we run our parties, right? I have taught my organization to run 6-day parties. However, I understand that there are many other people having super success doing parties all different kinds of ways, right? 15-minute parties, Zoom parties, 1-hour parties, all these different texting parties, right? So several months ago for my organization team meeting, I had someone else train them on the 15-minute party concept, preaching the idea that if what I have taught you isn't working for you right now, right? Maybe you have less time because you're like e-learning your kids or, you know, whatever, you know, I get that. So let me offer up a toolkit, some different ways to party with people and be flexible, knowing that my way that I've taught you maybe is not right for you right now. Okay? 5, be personal. A little personality goes a long way, especially when you're a leader, right? Go out of your way to have personal exchanges with your personal team members and downline leaders. First generation, if you have a really big organization, you don't need to build like friendships. It's not Pampered Chef's best friend race, but there's no reason why you can't get to know each other on some level. Understand where they live, learn about their families, what they do for work. Personal working relationships, like any other job, right? Or profession or whatever, part-time gig, right? It's important for cultivating a sense of team. And if people see you as another person on the team, they'll be more receptive to your visions, your ideas, your suggestions, your constructive criticism, right? All the things. The key here is to seem imperfect, approachable, and human. Okay, nobody wants someone with all the answers. You don't learn that way, right? 6, focus on actions rather than argument. Trying to build influence through words is useless. If you're gonna build influence among your team, you need to speak through your actions, right? Show instead of tell. What does that equate to, guys? Having a strong personal business. You can't expect people to sell 750 if you are barely selling 750, right? This means, as a leader, at a minimum, 4 shows a week. Really, if I were you, 8 shows a week, because you're a leader. We're telling new consultants to do every 4, add 1 more. For you to not have 8 shows on your calendar every week is ridiculous. If we are asking an entry-level person, think about it, a corporate job, right? An entry-level person is doing 4 parties a week. You should not be okay with just 4. You should go 4 plus 4 more, in my opinion. Because then you're setting the pace for the pack to follow. You're stepping up. You're walking the walk. Okay. 7, this is probably the most important, which again, this is something I'm growing into, and I think has really helped me as I've gone through this career plan. You got to listen to other people, guys. Remember that influence is a 2-way street, right? It's just like anything. Like, you want people at the table that don't necessarily agree with you. You want other ideas. Different ways of thinking, right? The more you believe in the people around you and incorporate their ideas into your vision, the more they'll believe in your ideas and incorporate them into their work habits, right? If you want to build up this kind of relationship with your personal team members and downline leaders, you first have to listen. Encourage people to share things that is working for them. What are they struggling with? What are they most excited about? Take time to respect and acknowledge everybody's opinion and let people know that you value it. Okay, so now that we have kind of covered the pillars of, or building blocks of establishing influence in general, let's talk about influence, a specific aspect of your Pampered Chef business. As a leader, your role is to build a large and productive personal team from which you continually promote new directors and help them promote and level. So what does that mean, guys? It means a leader first needs to recruit and sell. Then they need to teach those skills to their consultants. And finally, they should have duplicatable programs and systems in place to help those consultants reach their dreams and goals, right? And we know that when we help other people get what they want, we get what we want. It's a trickle-down effect, right? You've probably heard this a million times, but I'm going to say it again because it's important. Systems ensure success. If you're not a numbers person, become one. This business is built in relationships, but guess what does not lie? The numbers. When you know what your show average is, when you know how many people you recruit or how many leads you generate from how many shows you do each week, right? Then you know where to go. Okay? Systems allow you not only to automate, which is stuck so with me since we had executive seminar. I'm like, I need to do all these things, right? Additionally to what I'm doing, It allows you to track your results for what you're doing, but also translate your success to your downline and team to be achievable. You're seeing that as duplicatable. People say, okay, he's doing this. Well, I can actually take that and do it. So maybe I could be him. Maybe I could be her. It's not a heavy lift anymore. It doesn't look so hard. Okay? So in order to influence teamwork and monthly activity, because that's kind of the topic for today, within our organization, I did the following things personally and promoted others organization-wide. Now, some of these will seem probably like no-brainers, but one thing that I always say on calls with organization leaders is 95% of the time, when we are not getting what we want, it is our fault. It is something we did and are, for some reason, stopped doing, right? We have no idea, right? But 95% of the time, right? So think about these things. Are you actually doing them? Are you actually teaching them? Is there a focus on them, okay? So first, teaching your team to make 25 two-way contacts a week and tracking them. 25 contacts is actual back and forth. So that really is more like, because, you know, we say you got to message 10 to 12 people to get one person to respond to you. Actually, that's a lot of contacts that you need to be teaching people, you know, reach outs that they actually need to be making to get the parties on their calendar. Are you teaching them? In a challenge, go for the no. Are you actually showing them the numbers? Here are the numbers. When you do this, this is what happens. Not just going into the ether and saying it, but actually applying it, giving it a tangible example. Okay? Teaching every 4, add 1 more out of the gate, right? We offer a weekly new consultant training where we talk about what is possible. I don't go into, and I lead this, I don't go into their, you know, their individual income goals and stuff, but I set the stage for the fact that they can have anything they want. With this business, you do, you get. It's not like you do, you get more work and no more money, right? So in a perfect world, you can have whatever you want, but it starts with you doing every 4, add 1 more. It starts with you seeing yourself as a leader and someone that helps other people, right? And it's someone that's hungry to be rewarded through our Fast Track Rewards program, okay? Teach a host coaching system, right? Whether it's in document format, Evernote, units. I know units are all the rage right now. All of these things, bite-sized learning chunks. Very similar to Dash, but guess what? Dash doesn't replace you, right? People need to see me closing a party because then they see them closing a party. When they look at something on Dash, they don't necessarily see themselves doing that. It's a great, you know, learning tool for on the go, and it's a great resource, of course. But again, this business is built in relationships. Numbers don't lie, but relationships are still important. They need to see them as you, because then they trust you, then they'll be influenced by you. Okay? Teaching the host booking challenge, 3-party booking bonus. This is something we also cover in that new consultant orientation. One of the biggest reasons why new consultants are not active every month when they start, they may be active in that first month and then kind of peter out. They are not taught to book parties from their parties immediately. They rely on going through a whole friends list first, friends and family, and they don't realize that they need to get out of that circle immediately. So I would encourage you to look at your new consultants that you've welcomed in the past 3 months and go back to them and say, do you know what this is? Do you do this? Because even in my organization, and I try to touch everybody, I was kind of the originator of this whole idea of host booking challenge. And you know, a leader on my team, he did a poll and a bunch of people in his team had no idea what it was. Like, think about the missed opportunity. Think about the missed teamwork and monthly activity when people are not booking parties from parties, right? And then setting aside time to identify and engage those rockstar party guests, right? You know, now most of us are getting the message feature back in Facebook, you know, taking the time, right? That's an income generating activity, right? That leads to teamwork and monthly activity, 30, 60, 90 days down the road. Messaging every single guest in the party, taking the time to copy and paste and send that language, texting every single customer that orders. That leads to teamwork and monthly activity, right? And then that 3-party booking bonus challenge. Challenging your personal team and organization to be green by 15 and recognizing them for it. I've moved to green by 10 because once I influenced what I wanted and got green by 15, I'm not going to keep doing the same thing. I'm going to move the needle up because guess what? Everybody then is making more money more quickly. I then, as a result, are meeting my national executive director qualifications more quickly. And then I can focus my time and attention on other things, helping other people, doing those other things that we sometimes leave by the wayside. challenging your director team to be green by 15 as well. We're moving in the direction of 10 by the 10th too. And then intentionally meeting with your first generation leaders individually or together to empower them to network and support their downline leaders and consultants. So I used to do, back in the day when we were much smaller, I used to do these individual 30-minute calls with everybody that would sign up for them. And of course, as we grew, I couldn't do that because it was a lot of time every month. So now I used to meet with my, only my first generation leaders individually, but now we do a monthly first generation coaching call, kind of team chat. Guys, it's my favorite call every month. This is a newer thing, but it's the call I look forward to the most because they're my OG. They're my first personal team folks that I promoted, and many of them have been with me for the whole ride, right? So it's so fun to see them interacting and supporting each other and working on things together, right? And honestly, I missed it, right? So let me pull some of these ideas out and expand. I'm totally over time, but hopefully that's cool. So my national team has met structure and requirements for over a year at this point, 14 months. I think 14 or 15 months, okay? This was not by accident. When we first promoted to a national team, I wanted to influence the behavior of meeting requirements every month, and so I implemented a challenge for it, okay? Now, you shouldn't have to incentivize everybody to meet these things, but for me, our organization, it works, and I think I've taught the habits in terms of how to run the business that reinforce this, but there's nothing wrong with offering a challenge to influence what you want, in my opinion, okay? For every consecutive month that we met structure, and this is right after we promoted, I would put a certain amount of money in the pot to be split among leaders of the green teams in the month and one of their active consultants that contributed to the team meeting their requirements. I also added onto that amount of money every month, month after month, the months we were consecutively paid at title, meeting our requirements in a row. It got pretty pricey in the end, but ultimately moved the needle in the area I wanted, and I'll talk about that, how you kind of shift that in a second. So important note to mention, when you get the results in the arena, whatever you want, move on, right? What is happening has now become a habit and usually ends up continuing. For what I just mentioned, I offered this incentive for I think it was a quarter or two, and then reevaluated what I now wanted to influence. Using the change of a quarter, right, like March, April, or January, February, March, for example, to alter existing programs and incentives is extremely smart on your part and doesn't then seem to come out of nowhere to your consultants and leaders. So I got to the point with my one challenge where I was putting out a lot of money because I was adding on each month consecutively in terms of when we met requirements. So I had influenced what I wanted, and then I switched it, and it was a new quarter, and that's how I said, I'm trying something new this quarter. And nobody thought anything about that because I was still doing something, it just was different. So there was also a time when I did not have many leaders going green and being paid as a director by the 15th. So to influence this, I first taught my leaders that the smart and best way to run their business would be to front load their calendars with parties in the first 2 weeks. So this way they would have a pretty clear picture of where they stood mid-month, right? Green, almost green, nowhere close, at which point we would be, kind of in crisis mode and then have to discuss alternatives, right? Once I taught it, I implemented an incentive for doing so to, again, influence the behavior I wanted repeated. I put a challenge in place that for all leaders who were entered into all leaders who were green by 15 were entered into a drawing for $50 and a 15 to 20 minute private chat with another executive leader. In this case for you guys, it could be another amazing advanced director or senior director. People love hearing from people who aren't you. Right? You laughing, but it's true. Some of my people are on this call, and I'm sure that they're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to hear from him again." But there's so much value. Like I think about, I don't know if she's on here, but like Danny Calentine did this training for us with time management on one of our organization calls. She blew my mind. I was like, how does her brain work like this? Like when I hear Crystal Moringa, I'm like, how do you have the time to think of these crazy, amazing things, right? Like it's so much value in learning from other people. Okay. So the directors love this. They love the idea of getting rewarded with the time with somebody else. I mean, the money, I'm sure the $50 was great, but they loved the time that they got, right? Once I started offering this, I began to see results, right? We went from 1/3 of our leaders being paid by the 15th to half, and now up to 70% are paid. I mean, they're director green, maybe not paid at their actual title, but they're director green, which I'm happy with that. I'm happy with their title too, but of course. So one more example for those of you with bigger organizations, I have my first generation leaders in our own group chat. I noticed that many leaders in my first generation were strong sellers and therefore carrying, kind of carrying their teams.
Stop. No.
But they had a few consultants, that's okay. They had a few consultants selling what was then that $750 selling incentive special each month. The balance was off there, right? So I look at my leader teams like I used to look at organizations I recommended funding for in my role as a grants officer. So when I worked for the State Arts Council, right, I was reviewing applications for people to be awarded money from me, right, arts organizations. And so when I looked at their application, I would say, okay, let's look at their contributed income line, which means that someone someone believes in the product of, say, a theater, the quality of their product enough to come and buy the ticket to the show, right? Then I would look at their, that's their earned income. Then I would look at their contributed income, and that would be people like foundations and corporations that donated money because they saw the value in the work of the theater for the overall community, right? I look at my leader teams like that, and the balance between their personal performance and the performance of their team members, their personal team members, right? And at that point, the balance was off. The leader was carrying all the sales because I've always taught my leaders to be strong sellers, right? But there was something going on with their personal team members not selling. So like, what was happening there? So I put a challenge into place where my leaders could earn a small cash award or gift card when they had 5+ personal team members submitting $750 by the end of the month. And I just bumped it up to $1,000 when the new total was announced to earn the selling incentive, right? They changed that. Their personal team had to be green by the 15th of the month, and we had to meet national requirements by the end of the month. This award was then used for them to incentivize their teams. The number of first generation teams meeting these requirements tripled during the quarter I ran this for. And so now I've added in a personal recruiting requirement, and I've changed them having to be a green team by the 15th to being a director green team by the 10th. Okay, and then, of course, these examples I mentioned, you can monetize and scale whatever your budget you have. I mean, again, you can make this your own. And then, like many of you do, I have a graphic I made in Canva that I update to reflect the leader teams that have gone green by the 5th, 10th, and 15th. And then I recap the first or second or whatever I get to it from the end where the month ended. I try to be good about this on the 5th, 10th, and 15th, but it doesn't, sometimes it's the day after or whatever, and I have to say that. And basically, it highlights the different sales levels the personal teams have reached. So 5K plus or rebuild, 15K plus, 25K plus, and 35K plus. Each leader has their own pair of like sunglass shades. And so the colors change as they hit the new sales levels. But the bottom line is, guys, to be truly effective, right? Leaders you gotta master the ability to influence others. And without the capacity to influence others, your ability to make what you envision a reality, right, really remains elusive, because after all, no one can do it. Not one of you can do what you want and achieve what you want alone. That's all I have.
He says as though he just delivered nothing. That was amazing, Steve. So much good stuff there. So good. So I'm gonna just remind you all that we have a leadership live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time. So I'll do a recap of those incentives that Steve just shared with you all too. So if you've got real hard-hitting questions for Steve, we definitely have some time here. Not a ton of time, but we've got some time for questions for Steve. So Kath, did you see any in the chat or?
Yeah, I did. So Shelley was asking about what you cover on your leader call, Steve.
On the first gen call or the overall leader call we have every month?
Shelley, is that the first gen call?
Yes, first gen call, that would be great.
Yeah, so the first gen call, they know that they come to the call ready to talk. I talk very little. I do secretly, and some of them are on here, so they probably know this, but I have my own things that I want to talk about, but I don't really interject them unless there's dead air. But otherwise, what are you guys doing to support your teams? What are you struggling with, right? It's very relaxed and very like meeting everybody where they are, real talk. There's no set schedule agenda. And I will say I have a monthly leader call, and guess what? Like I said again, 30 minutes of that call is some other person training them. Because guess what? They love you, but they're tired of hearing from you. Okay, just real talk, right? They love you, but they're tired of hearing from you. So I always get another executive or executive, or it could be a senior or whatever, based on what the skill is I'm trying to present. But for my leaders, right, my leaders are no longer doing kind of what a consultant does, which is book and sell and recruit. Those are the tenements of our business, but there's a level of strategic thinking that has to come through the door when you promote to a leader. And so when we have those leader meetings, the training you're getting is upper level training. I'm not really going to go over booking, probably. But we're going to talk about 3 cultures. We're going to talk about what we're talking about today and career plan advancement. And some of the tenements may be rooted in there, obviously. But yeah, so that's what we, I always have 30 minutes in my monthly leader calls where I don't, I have them engage. And then on my leader calls every month, I always have 2 directors who are doing amazing things share out. Because again, they love you, but they don't want to hear from you all the time. So people having success, maybe they have a really active personal team. Like, what are you doing? How are you working with them, right? Maybe they had a crazy month in sales. Like, what are you doing in your parties to really make those relationships and all those kind of things. And then, I do recognition, but it's not a lot of time. Really, 40 minutes of that call is all training.
Love that. Gretchen has a really good question for you, Steve. She said, earlier you said to value people as people more than as producers on your team. How do you balance that with working with people who, quote, earn your time?
A good question. Let me read it again. Value people, how do you balance that with working with people who earn your time? You mean people that, how do you balance people's, I think it's all rooted in the fact that, you think about like the whole RSVP thing. You guys know what that is, right? It's the idea of you have to be protective of your own time because you do need to focus some of it on your personal business. But at the same time, you do want to invest time in those performers, that are showing up every month. Now, how do you do that, right? I do that by engaging them in ways to help them grow. So like, for example, maybe you have them partner with you on a training that you offer for your organization where you guys work together and they get to pick your brain at the same time as, kind of growing in their own skill. So like I think about something I'm doing coming up here with 2, actually one of them is on this call. We're doing an advanced director bound program where I'm partnering with 2 of my senior directors to work with me to kind of grow our leadership team. And in the midst of that, right, I'm spending time with them to help to be able to, it's a meeting where we're meeting once a week and sharing ideas, and they're getting more of my time, right? And so they really understand that I ask them because I value them. They have something to offer everybody, but they're also going to learn leadership skills through the process of doing this program with me. Does that make sense? That was awesome. That was a tricky question.
It's a good question, but a great example as well. You're investing in them, and that does show value outside of a reward of any sort.
And again, not perfect at any of this, just telling you. So
and I have to say, I just love that about Steve, because even when we talk about leadership principles and all of that, none of us are perfect at all of those things.
No.
But I just love your honesty and authenticity. But the fact is, you are working to be better at all of those things, and you have a great awareness. And I think that's what we all need to have. So, okay, Stace, you got some other questions you want to go to?
I saw one other. Talk about attendance at your meetings. You mentioned a couple of various meetings. How are you driving attendance and motivating your team members to get there?
Well, I think, so number one, my organization page, my leaders should have their own team pages, and they should be doing things like recognizing and all of that. And like, they're hitting their 1250 and 20, all that stuff, that does not happen in our organization page. I focus and try to have added value in that page. So like, I try to share different things I find on YouTube that would be helpful for their business, like a Google Calendar training, or all these different kinds of things are inspirational blogs or things that I find. But in terms of the meetings, I drive attendance to those because it's not another meeting. They know I advertise the trainer that's going to be on the meeting before I set, like it's a part of the invitation I send from the group organization page, so they know what they're getting when they show up. I have a large organization, but I typically have 100 to 150 people show up on my meetings usually, which I think is pretty good live.
Love it. And Kirk, who is a participant, maybe a little biased. The content is always valuable. And I think that's the key, is that you have established with your entire organization that when they show up, it's going to be worth their time.
Yep.
I think probably we should move on. What do you think, Kath?
Yeah, I was actually wondering, Steve, if you have a few minutes, do you mind staying on and just answering some of the questions in the chat?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, if you have a few minutes, that'd be great, because there were a lot of them in there, and we know that you gave such good information that I think they'd like some detail on that. And if there's something you can't get to, let Stacia know, and she can cover it tomorrow on the Leadership Live.
And I will do a good recap too of all of those tactical points that you shared, Steve. Thank you so much for being with us and taking the time to invest in all of us today.
Yes, let's give Steve a big round of applause. Woo! Awesome job, Steve, as always.
As always. So
As
good.
always. All right, let me share the screen again, Stace.
All righty, my friend.
I think you're up again.
All right. So we want to dive into just a little recap of how you are going to be supported in the upcoming month and throughout the rest of the program, your last 3 months of your time with us. Don't forget that we offer additional support and training throughout the month. For those of you who are going for a ramp up month, which is something that Kathy and I have just decided to tackle and see how it goes for us. For those of you who are going for a ramp up month, or month 1 or month 2 in the upcoming month, we have certain First Friday calls at 10 a.m. Central Time. We've got our First Friday call for all participants at noon Central Time on that first Friday of the month. For those in their ramp up month or going for month 1 or month 2, you've got your choice of a one-on-one coaching call or a Facebook Live with either Kathy or myself. You've got the opportunity to participate in a leader call and also an aspiring leader call, which we've got the September dates there. We can refresh those with the new October dates as well. For those of you in that qualification period and working towards that. Crystal, good question. What is ramp up month? Ramp up month means you are almost ready to go for month 1 qualifications as an executive director, but maybe you're not quite there yet, and you're going to use that month. Perhaps it's going to be the rest of the end of the month of September, and this is your ramp up month, because you know in October and November your organization is going to be ready to meet those qualifications. Maybe it's going to be October, where you really focus on building the steam and getting your organization on board with the efforts and getting aligned with the efforts and the actions that it will take to meet month 1 and month 2 requirements. So that's what Kathy and I are calling the ramp up month, something new we are gonna check out and try out as we move forward.
I was just going to jump in real quick, Stacia. So one of the things we were talking about is when we do this First Friday call, they're really powerful. But we also know that some people are taking, for example, the month of October to ramp up. Like you got to get one more leader promoted because you know you might be able to get the last one promoted, like, you know, in November, let's say. So it's just like you're a building strength month where you feel like I'm close, but I'm not there yet. So the benefits of that is you'll be able to be involved in the First Friday call that we do at 10 a.m., which is at a little bit higher level than the 12 noon call. Because those people are like saying, how do I cross the finish line? The other thing is we have a call this week on Monday and Wednesday. We just had one yesterday. So we have one on Wednesday for all your first, second, third gen leaders and their aspiring leaders and your aspiring leaders. So even if you want to say, hey, I am ramping up because I think I'm going to go for October, if you message us, we can give you the information for that. So I probably should have put that into the deck stage for you, but sorry to interrupt.
All good. That's
Yeah.
why we're a team.
Yeah. Okay.
So, absolutely. We also have our networking and our Q&A, which is those First Friday calls, which those are probably one of my favorite. I think the Ask an Executive is my favorite support piece that we have as a part of this program. And I think these First Friday calls are quickly becoming my second favorite piece, Kath. So I love what those are and what they represent. But remember, the only way that we know whether you're in ramp up month or whether you're going for month 1 or in month 2 is if when we put that Google survey form out at the very end of the month, the 28th, 29th, 30th, when you see that come out, you've got to click the link and complete that survey as quickly as possible so that we can make sure that you are invited to the right places at the right time. So you might be asking too, well, how do I know if I'm ready for month 1, or how do I know if I'm ready to ramp it up? Typically, we tell people to be working with 2 to 3 times the people you need to promote. So for example, if you've got 4 first gen and 2 second gen leaders, you just need those 2 more first gens. You should ideally be working with 4 to 6 aspiring first generation leaders who say they are committed to promoting that month. So that first Friday call is going to be your first piece of support as you prepare to go in that direction. Okay, don't forget, like I just mentioned, we will be sending out and also posting in the Facebook group that Google survey link. I can't impress upon you enough how important it is for you to click that link very promptly so that Kathy and I can be right there ready to support you and completely aware of what your goals are so that we can align with you and help support you to reach those goals.
Especially since our first Friday call is going to be on October 2nd. So you're going to know on, the 30th of this month if you're, ready to do this in October or not, where you're going to stand. And also, just for those of you, I know we have a lot of executives on here that you guys are in the mastermind program. You guys are going to be getting a survey like this too. We do a separate one for those that are participating in mastermind versus exec bound. So, okay, good. Thanks, Dej. All right, so you guys know all about our executive vision I should say executive bound vision, and that is through networking and accountability. You will learn what it takes to become an executive team, and we will have fun in the process because fun is our middle name, right, Stace? And so right. Our vision, this is a big vision, you guys. Our vision is to have 200 executive director teams promoted from February 1st to January 1st of 2021. So that means 108 new executives. And so we set this, big, hairy, scary goal. We had 11 people promote this last month, which we recognized on our last webinar. Yes, kudos and cheers to them. So we have 97 to go. So are you going to be one of those 97 that's going to promote? So right now, you guys, we have 117 execs, we have 23 senior executive directors, and we have 39 national executive leaders. And so I also know at executive seminar, just so you guys know, the team had set another goal, which was to have 61 new promotes. But I guess they didn't know that we already set the goal for 97 new promotes. So we think you guys are going to blow that goal out of the water. But I just want to offer you the inspiration because this is everybody. Isn't that such a cool picture to see? So these are all of our executive leaders, guys, 179. I mean, we sat at like 50, 52, 58 for the longest time, for years. And all of a sudden, we have this incredible growth. So if you are an executive and you want to take a snapshot of this, feel free to. This is A through G. These are our current executives. If you don't see your picture, wait, there's more because we've got a whole nother slide. And then we have G through M. Look at all those beautiful faces. We have M through W and a few more. All right, there's Kirk. I don't know if you've seen that before, Kirk. You're on there. And Jenny, and I see a lot of you guys that are on this call. So the question is, who's going to be our next executive? So if you guys know right now, feel free to put in the chat that October is going to be your ramp up month, or October is going to be month 1. Now that doesn't officially notify us. You still got to click the link, but put it in there, guys. We want to know. We want to hear from you guys. And we want to support you. So we're offering tons of support for that. And that's how we know how to support you guys. Then we have our senior executive directors. And that's through A through P. And there's the rest of them. And then, of course, our national executive directors. Look at all those happy faces. I love these vision boards.
I was just going to say, I love seeing all these faces, and I love seeing more and more and more get added every single month.
I know people are like, you're going to show all those slides? And I'm like, heck yes, I'm showing all those slides. I want him to see all these beautiful faces. All right, there's the rest of our nationals. And there's a few more. And there they are. All right, you guys, so thank you so much for participating. I have 2 conversation questions for you, and Stacey's going to be posting these in the page after. She'll post them on Executive Bound and on Mastermind. But I love how Steve separated his training and focused first on who you are and then on what you do. And I think you guys probably picked that up, right? So influence is about, you know, leadership is influence, basically. And so when he talked about these 7 key things, this is going to be the first thing we want you guys to respond to. And you guys take the time to do this because it does impact people. We really notice who does answer the conversation questions as well as who doesn't. So make sure you take the time to look at that and figure out, you know, what area do you need to focus on, and share just one thing that you will implement. This helps everybody in the team. And of course, we're a team, this Executive Bound group. And then the second question is all about the great tips on teamwork and monthly activity. And it kind of boils down to these 4 categories. Everything Steve said is going to impact one of these 4 categories. And these are the 4 most important things to really be living out and implementing teamwork and monthly activity in you know, a way that's going to be impactful and effective. I have had people say, gosh, when I hit executive, it took me an awareness of realizing I hadn't really implemented, you know, X culture the right way. And then when I really looked at what I needed to do, then they promoted. So reminder, Stacia is going to be live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central for our Facebook Live, which will be great to get a recap on this, because I know Steve did a great job of slowing down. That was slow. Yeah. For Steve, normally he's like wind gusts of 200 miles an hour, you know. But I know some people were like, wait, I need a pause button. So this Stacia's really great at recapping that kind of stuff. Also, our Monday motivation, I don't know if you guys saw April Schillig yesterday. Oh my gosh, amazing. It was fantastic. So make sure you're checking out those videos for the Monday motivation. These guys have been willing to come back. These are people that were in Executive Bound, and they're coming to share kind of their story and to help all of you. So to wrap it up, join us in 2 weeks for our next training, which that should not say teamwork and monthly activities. Sorry about that. That should say fast-paced recruiting growth next month. And that is on Tuesday, October 6th at 12 noon Central. So you guys, that's it for today. We're going to go back and look through the chat. If you guys have any questions or anything that's just like really bugging you that you didn't get answered, feel free to message Stacia or myself, and we are happy to help you guys.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, let me stop sharing the screen so that we can say goodbye to all of you and see your lovely faces. Thanks, you guys, for participating. Thank you, Steve. I can't see if Steve's still here. Is he still here? Maybe he's out. Okay. All right. So much fun. Really good stuff. So really take from this what you're going to apply. Make sure you put those on the Facebook page, you guys. So thank you so much for being here, because your commitment and being here on these trainings is what's really going to help you to reach that goal. All right. We're cheering for you guys. We love you guys so much. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.